It's the Tim Constantine Show.
There was an article in the Washington Post called, it was an opinion piece, Do Fans Have to Cheer for America Too? It's by a woman named Tricia Jenkins. She's an assistant professor of film, television, and digital media at Texas Christian University. Now, there's a stereotype that college professors tend to be liberal. There's a stereotype that those that work in the media industry, that those that work in television and film are liberal. Trish Jenkins goes ahead and, she lives the stereotype, baby. The heading on this opinion piece is, Do Fans Have to Cheer for America Too? And let me share it with you. It says, the customary flyover by fighter jets may be absent from this weekend's Super Bowl. After all, the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans is covered. But the military color guard will be on the field during the pregame ceremonies. CBS will cut to shots of troops watching the games overseas, all of which is true, all of which they did. Alicia Keys did a great job singing before the game. They went ahead during the anthem and showed the young men and women serving in Afghanistan. It quite literally brought tears to my eyes. It was outstanding. But Tricia Jenkins' column goes on and says, flag imagery will abound, as will stirring renditions of the national anthem and most likely America the Beautiful. They had children's choir out there singing America songs as well. It was great. Ms. Jenkins doesn't seem to think so. She says, sports games, some of the only events that lead Americans to set their differences aside and sit down and watch together. Well, don't tell that to San Francisco fans and Baltimore fans about putting their differences aside, but I think I understand what she means. She said they become stages for large-scale patriotic theater. This is no accident. Many of the militaristic rituals we see in stadiums and arenas across the country were deliberately designed to promote unity during these times of crisis. How dare they? How dare they try to promote unity? Oh. She said, but they've stuck around far longer than they needed. We don't need unity anymore. Trish Jenkins tells us this makes sports feel less like pastimes than pep rallies for our military or for a particular war. During World War II, team owners introduced the national anthem and ceremonies honoring the armed forces as a way to win President Franklin Roosevelt's support for continuing play amid the conflict. Actually, she's sadly mistaken. It was to support the men who left their families behind, traveled halfway around the world, were slaughtered by the thousands, all to make sure that we have freedom of the press, all to make sure people like Tricia Jenkins can be malcontents and tell their problems that, I can't believe we're promoting America during a sporting event. Here's where her article really gets me. When NBA player Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf refused to stand for the national anthem during the 1995-1996 season, he was suspended by the league, probably because that's part of his contract requirement. When he gets paid more than $1 million to bounce a little orange ball around, he is required to stand up for the anthem. The league barred him from playing until it came up with a compromise. He had to stand but was allowed to look down rather than at the flag. She goes on with other examples, but she says, by refusing to participate in patriotic gimmickry because of their objections to U.S. policy, why is it gimmickry? Why can't patriotism just be patriotism? Is it possible that when I go to a Jacksonville Jaguars game and 65,000 people cheer for that military flyover, that those people actually support our troops? That those people actually respect the men and women who serve and make sure that you and I remain free? Or is it just gimmickry? Somehow, a country founded on rebellion finds not standing for an anthem or saluting a flag un-American. Tricia, founded on rebellion, we rebelled against tyranny. The idea was not to create chaos. The idea was not that anyone and everyone could follow whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. The idea is rebellion against tyranny. The idea that some high school kids have to stand up and say a pledge to the flag while they're getting a public education, while you and me are paying for their education. I don't think that's outrageous. A player who bounces a basketball around and gets paid $1 million or $2 million or $3 million a year for doing so, and part of his contract says you will stand for the pledge, for the anthem before the game, and then he refuses to honor his own contract, that's not my problem. No one is forcing him to continue to play in the NBA. No one is forcing him to collect that $1 million. He could go back to his hometown and work as a teacher or janitor or policeman or some other job that is honorable, but that only makes $40,000 a year. He doesn't have to stay if he doesn't want to stand. He does have a choice. His choice is to leave that profession and to leave the contract behind. But the idea that somehow Americans are being tricked into cheering for the military, or the fact we support our troops when we come home means we blindly support anything our military does, that's not it. I don't know how old this Tricia Jenkins is, but I'm reminded when I was a small boy, the Vietnam era was going on, and many of those troops that came home were not welcomed home. They were spat upon. You could disagree with the Vietnam War, but you can't disagree that those men and women were honorable men and women doing their duty to country. We recognize that now. I only wish Trish Jenkins recognized that. The reason she can write an opinion like this in a major newspaper in the United States is because of the men and the women in the U.S. military.
It's the Tim Constantine Show.